embroidered.
Oh wow!
And I got $200 already donated by Joel for it.
Oh, okay.
So if
Send me
CCP AAA will do the rest.
Yeah, send the thing over and I'll get it presented and I'll get it done.
It was a good chunk. I don't remember the exact number. Yeah.
I remember it's about 3 times what I had.
Who's ready to start the best hour of their week? Last meeting of the year. Carol LaRue, would you like to come and do our invocation, please?
Good afternoon. I'm going to invite you. Oops, I got to change. I'm going to invite you to take a seat.
There you go.
Okay? So if you would, get comfortable. We're in a very busy time of year, and I know many people are in the midst of to-do lists and busyness. And so I'm just going to invite you to take a pause. Hit the pause button. Feel your feet on the floor. Bring yourself into the now moment. Close your eyes or shift your gaze downward if you like, and allow yourself to connect with divine inspiration and divine guidance in helping us remember the why of this season. Take a deep breath. Feel the gift of being present in the present moment. And allow your heart and mind to be open to your God, Creator, Source, in helping remember the why of the season. The love, acceptance, compassion, giving, forgiveness. And we ask particularly that you be mindful of, and we ask support for those who may be experiencing health challenges, either physically, emotionally, or mentally this time of year, and those who may be experiencing grief. And open your heart, feel the abundance of gratitude for this club, for this community, for the individual gifts and talents of every individual in this room. And open your heart to warmth and to joy without the hurry. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Carol. If everybody wants to stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Again. Our Sergeant at Arms today is Carolyn Williams. I don't know. Kind of a long-termer, Russell. I'm not going to say any ages or anything.
How much fine? Kaylin, you're one of the top 5.
Oh, don't ask her to find
generous, and I need a red badger. Can you stand up, red badger? One? Just what? One red badge? Don't we have any red badges here? Well, they're coming next time. Okay. Oh, a red badge. I have a question. What is the Rotary emblem, and what does it say? It's the wheel. The gear, right. That gear makes Christmas magic, makes magic around the world. So, I'm sorry you don't get a piece of candy. We have one. Ladies and gentlemen, what musical was premiered this day many years ago in St. Petersburg, Russia? The Nutcracker. Give that lady some candy. Okay. Can I have somebody throw this out? Oh, I just see one of my favorite people, Joan. Hi. Welcome. Give Joan a piece of candy, too. I think because we have a special guest here, I'm going to defer the rest of it. Just pass that out to whoever you think deserves it. Okay, yes. Make sure Joan is one. And anybody else have any special requests for candy? No? Okay, please be generous to those boxes because we're going for 2 weeks.
Thank you, Carolyn. Our Rotarian of the day is Kathy Donaldson, but she is not here. Our students of the month, they want to come on up here. Derringer Hollenbach and Ella Herndon.
Hi, like you said, I'm Ella Kernan. I just want to say thank you to all of you guys, especially the new people I've met, but also to the people that I've known my whole life. It is really special to me to have the opportunity to be here and learn super self from you guys. What you guys do is really great, and the students in our schools really appreciate it.
I'm Derringer Hollenbeck. Some of you may have met me already, but you might not recognize me because I did recently chop off my hair. And I just want to say I have enjoyed coming to lunch and these meetings the past few weeks. And I want to thank Mr. Dodson, Mr. Croix, and Mr. Frasick for allowing me to have this opportunity. And the last few weeks I've learned a lot about Rotary. I learned about service over self, and how last week the guest speaker, I believe his name was Luke, how when he went on his trip across the country, he was able to learn the hospitality of people. And I want to thank you guys also for being so hospitable and so welcoming. It's been great to meet some of you. And thank you guys. Merry Christmas.
Thank you guys. Congratulations and go do great things. Our caterer today is Timbered In. Let's give them a big round of applause. And then we have a slew of guests with us. We have, with Louise, we have Casey Kennedy. I know how to say it now. We have our Interact students. We have Aiden Arnold and Ashlyn Taylor. There you go. We actually have, with Ella, our student of the month, we have Grant Kernan and Amber Kernan. You guys want to give a little wave? Grant spoke here before. With Sue Montgomery, we have, I should have asked how to say this, Talisha Harvey. Is that right? Perfect. And we also have Aubrey Gebhardt. And what? And Shelby Elliott. And then we have a very special guest with us today that I believe Russell and Tom are going to announce.
We have a very special guest with us today. This is my good friend Joan Vermeer. Joan's husband, Bill Ski, was past president of our were the driving forces behind the YMCA being started in Pearl, Oklahoma. Tomorrow at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 1 o'clock, I'm sorry, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, they will be doing a ribbon cutting at the Y. And everybody is invited to that. They're going to do some tours and show you the facility. But the board decided that they would name that building the Bill Ski and Joan Vermeer Gymnasium. Both Bill and Joan were tremendous assets to the community of Pearl, Oklahoma. Have numerous friends in this group, as well as the community. So we'll kind of stick around after the meeting if you haven't had a chance to speak to her, but make Joan welcome, okay?
If you have an announcement, make your way to the front now.
Okay. I know. Okay, 2 announcements. First of all, remind you of Dolly Day. Celebration of Dolly's birthday is January 16th from 4 to 7 p.m. in this room. And we appreciate people spreading the word. We'll be getting it out in the community. And we're going to need some volunteers. Particularly, I'm going to need some volunteers to help with the setup and the tear down. I have a sign-up sheet here that you can either keep it with me, but I'll also set it on the table, that round table back in the back. But basically, at 1 p.m., we'll be setting up in this room. We have a schematic to go by as far as where we're going to put things, and then tearing down about 7:30 that night. The other need we have is for beanbag chairs. We're going to be reading to kids. And so if anybody has beanbag chairs, we could use probably 6 of them. If you'd like to donate for use during that time, we'd really appreciate it. And there's a sign up for beanbag chairs.
I know you can't see my shirt, but it says, "Have a holly dolly Christmas." And my sweet friend Carolyn Williams thought I needed a pink Santa hat, so isn't that cute? Thank you, Carolyn. This is so sweet. A couple of announcements. You may have seen up on the screen the announcement for Harbor Village Santa night this Friday and Saturday. Imagination Library is working the hot chocolate and cider stand. So if you come by, please get hot chocolate or cider. And half of the proceeds will go to Imagination Library. Thank you so much, Nicole and Harbor Village, for including us. And also, Dave Unruh and Greg are going to be volunteering with their wife, so thank you for that. We're going to have lots of fun. Thank you also to the YMCA and Adrian. We were at the resource night on Monday, and we got an enrollment. Yay! And we also got a significant donation from Todd, and I saw Todd come in. Thank you, Todd, for your donation to Imagination Library. And also, I'd like to announce that last May, we have a crack grant writing team for Imagination Library. We submitted a grant to the Crescent Family Foundation in Oklahoma City. Nick and Jack and I met with their grant manager. It was really quick. Like days later, she called me and said, "I'm coming to Grove." And it's like, "Can you come on Wednesday? We'll bring you to Rotary." And she said, "No, I can't." We're like, "Okay, we'll meet you." And we met with her, and we've been waiting to hear, and I'm pleased to announce a $5,000 donation to Grove Rotary Club's Imagination Library. Way to go, team. We have a great committee and a great team. Thank you to everybody involved.
I just want to make a couple presentations to some Paul Harris members. Those of you who do not know, Paul Harris Fellows are individuals that have made the donation to Rotary International. They have given at least $1,000, and for each additional $1,000 they get, they become a Paul Harris +1, Paul Harris +2, yada, yada, yada. So today I'm going to give out a pin to Tom Riggs. Tom Riggs, here's your Paul Harris +1 pin. You didn't know you gave an extra $1,000, better talk to your wife. Also, to Joan Vermont and Bill Ski. When I joined Rotary, Bill Ski was president. Bill Ski was 7-1. The incoming president was Ivan Devitt. We know how to call Ivan. Anyway, but Bill was responsible for bringing Lobster Fest to our club. And the first beneficiary of our very first Lobster Fest was the YMCA. They received $35,000 that very first year. So again, Joan, I know you did something. You served Bill many beers or glasses of wine or something during that time, but thank you very much.
If you're not careful, you get volunteered or you volunteer for something without understanding what you may be getting into. So I answered one of those notices and was the chairman of the four-way test speech contest. And Janine Perryman, Connie Jameson, Mark Morris, and Carolyn Williams all raised their hands and volunteered as well. So we met with the contestants yesterday at high school, and they had some interesting topics that you or I might not have thought of. The first one was cancel culture. How does the four-way test apply? The next was recidivism, rehabilitation, crime and correction. The third one was social media and socialization. How does it affect socialization? And the last was nostalgia. And so those were very interesting topics. They had 5 minutes to develop their topic. We didn't even give them a podium to hide behind, which made it a little bit difficult. Piper Byer, Jaden Lewis, Kennedy Matthews, and Adrian Moody were the contestants. And they'll be hopefully be given their awards and a presentation at least by the winner sometime in the near future.
We have such a giving community, and nobody outgives Rotary. I was made aware of a need this morning. We have so many families that have needs during this time of year, but this came from our fellow Rotarian, Christy Wallace, and many of these needs were made aware of through our school, through our administrator, through our counselors, and there's about 13 children that, through no fault of their own, have kind of circumstances that's going to affect them having Christmas. And so this was brought to Christy. Christy brought it to several of the medical staff this morning. And here's just a couple examples. One that had a parent that's going through cancer treatment. Another parent that's a veteran and is having some medical conditions, and the money went to medical conditions and not to Christmas. Another one lost a parent. Their primary parent died. They've been moved in with their grandparents, and there's kids between ages 1 and 13 that are not going to have Christmas. So I just asked Christy if I could extend the invitation to our club. I'm going to put $20 in a bucket here and pass it around. And I think we all got out $20. We'd go a long ways to helping Christy meet the needs of these 13 children. Also, if you would like to give more, they're making it available through the Grove Hospital Foundation as a 501c3. So if you want to give something more substantial to this, you can get a hold of Christy or drop by a check to the hospital at Kathy's office, which is the minister's office, and just put on their Secret Santa, Grove Hospital Foundation Secret Santa. So thank you very much. And begrudgingly to Beth. You're going to be quick, right?
He has to be.
I just wanted to let everybody know this is my last official Rotary announcement for the year.
And maybe as fast as ever. Can they all be like that from now on, Mike? I love that. All right, at this time, before I call up Chief Billy Friend, we're going to have to do a little business. A couple weeks ago, Sereno's here, presented you a slate. So at this time, I need to call the annual meeting to order. Autumn, do we have quorum? Yes? Okay. Bylaws require 1 month prior to the annual meeting, the nominating committee is appointed. That committee met and presented the slate of candidates to the club on December 4th. It's
further nominations? No further nominations were made. Today we will vote on the ballot of candidates. We have 4 Rotarians handing out the slate now, and they will count shortly. The ballot is, and you will see that in front of you shortly, President-elect Terry Wepler, President-elect nominee Clayton Baker, Secretary Karen Stevens, Treasurer Kathy Donaldson, Club Board Mike Kuhn, and Lindsay Crane, which you will vote for 2. Foundation Board is Matt Carnes, Cherie Cox, and Cindy Hefner, and you will vote for 3. And at this point, as you get those, we will vote, and then as Chief speaks, probably when we start Q&A, we will pick those up and we will start the count. So now I need a motion and a second to recess the meeting until after. Thank you, Russell. Do we have a second? Thank you, John. Okay, we are now in recess. And I have asked Amanda Davis to come introduce our speaker.
Quick shout out too, I know a lot of you in the crowd were part of the bits that helped us with the Christmas break on Saturday, so very special thank you to all of you that assisted there too. So it's my privilege, I get to introduce my good friend today, Billy Friend, Chief of the Wyandotte Nation, a role that he has held since June of 2011. Before becoming Chief, he served as a second Chief from 2006 to 2011 with over 25 years of extensive leadership and management experience. Chief Friend has also held key positions within the Wyandotte Nation, including the Director of Health Services, Director of Human Services, and Chief of Staff. In addition to his role as Chief, he serves as the President of the Wyandotte Gaming Enterprises and Wyandotte Technology. He also contributes to broader Native American leadership as Vice President of the Oklahoma Indian Gaming Association and as a member of the Board of Trustees for the Ohio History Connection. Also as Chief, he is responsible for upholding the nation's mission, spearheading strategic planning, and overseeing the administration of grants and contracts. He collaborates with various departments and committees to implement initiatives and serves as the tribe's representative to community partners and other tribal organizations. His leadership encompasses critical areas such as land, claim settlements, land to trust processes, and overseeing the development of 3 tribal casino projects. Under his guidance, the Wyandotte Nation has experienced remarkable economic growth, expanding to over 1,000 employees and generating more than $200 million in gross annual revenue from its enterprises. These revenues sustain and enhance vital tribal social service programs, ensuring the continued prosperity and the well-being of the Wyandotte community. And I will add, I tell him all the time, this is not new to him, at some point somebody's going to write a case study about the way that tribal nations give back to the communities, and he never, county lines and state lines, that doesn't mean anything to them. The Wyandotte Nation is one of the most giving tribes that I've had the privilege to work with, and a lot of it is because of his leadership. So, Chief Friend.
Thank you very much. Very honored to be here today. This is my second time to speak here at the Grove Rotary, and I just appreciate the opportunity to come and share a little bit about the Wyandotte Nation, who we are, where we came from, what we're doing today. And in Wyandotte, I say Kwe Amataru, Hamindadura Izache, Wandidi Kwaiche, and I say hello, my friends. Hamindadura is who I am, Wyandotte is who we are, and Hamindadura is my tribal name that was given to me in a tribal naming ceremony by my tribal elders. I let everybody know it means he who talks for a very long time. I'll check my time. I'll be respectful of your time today. You know, I tell everyone, you know, growing up, I can honestly say when I was sitting in a class and the teacher would say, "What are you going to be when you grow up?" I can honestly say I never one time said I was going to be an Indian chief. I was going to be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. I never got over 5'7" and 9/16", and so kind of ended right there, ended my dream. But it's a good thing now. I think I'm better off. But just a little bit. Last time I was here, I shared a lot about our history. and where we came from, how we got here as a tribe. And today I just want to talk a little bit about what we're doing today. And, today the tribe is made up of 3 divisions. And we feel like that for the Wyandotte Nation, and I always say, we're one of 574 federally recognized tribes in the United States. We're one of 39 tribes in the state of Oklahoma. We're one of 9 tribes here in what we call the Ottawa, Delaware County. They call us the Northeast 9 up here. And so, when I talk about tribes, I let everybody know that every tribe is completely different. None of us operate the same. Each one of us have the majority of tribes. We have a constitution that we go by. That constitution is signed off on by the Secretary of Interior. It also has to be ratified by Congress. And so the last time that we updated our constitution was 1999. And so today we operate underneath that constitution. And of course we have a board of directors that consists of 4 board of directors. We have a chief and a second chief. And we oversee all the divisions of the tribe. Within the tribe, first of all, we have the government division. And the government division, as I said today, we are a sovereign nation. We actually have our reservation affirmed on March the 7th of this year. And so we have an official reservation. Again, we're one of, I believe, 7 tribes or 8 tribes in the state that have had their reservations affirmed. And so we have jurisdiction over that reservation area. But under the tribal government, we operate a lot of the programs. I always say, we're a nation within a nation. And so we operate basically all the programs that the state of Oklahoma operates for its citizens. We operate those same programs on a smaller scale for our citizens. And so we have education, we have housing, we have family services, we have the social workers, we do, Indian child welfare. We have a healthcare and wellness center that Dr. Bechtel is a part of, that he works with us on that. And so we provide all these services through our government side. And we are a sovereign nation. And a lot of people do not understand. In fact, sovereignty is kind of an issue when you ask people, what does it mean to be sovereign? I remember when George W. Bush was at a tribal meeting up in the Northwest when he was the president. And he was at a large tribal gathering there. And the question was asked him by a reporter that, what does it mean to be sovereign? What is sovereignty? This was asked by a tribal journalist. And Mr. Bush, President Bush at the time said, it means, it just means what it means. It means that it's sovereign, And so that was kind of the answer. And for a lot, not belittling him, but for a lot of people, what is sovereignty? Sovereignty is basically the ability to govern yourself. And, tribes came a long way in governing themselves. And so most people don't realize, but the first concept of self-governance was introduced by Richard Nixon. You go back and look, I believe it was in June or July of 1970, Richard Nixon was addressing a joint session of Congress. And he was the first one to bring up the idea about tribes governing themselves. And he basically said, paraphrasing what he said that basically the federal government has failed for years in trying to solve Indian problems. He said the time has come to let Indians begin to solve their own problems, to give them the ability and the means to govern themselves. And so it was followed up by Gerald Ford. Under Gerald Ford, the first Indian self-determination bill was passed. And then under Bill Clinton, under the Clinton administration, it was finally solidified under the Indian Self-Determination and Education Act. And really what that did, it enabled all that money that used to go to the federal government programs, the Bureau of Indian Affairs and the Indian Health Service. Instead of that money going to them, that money came directly to the tribes. And especially healthcare is a great example. That we was able to build our own healthcare center, and we were able to provide care to our own tribal citizens, because who knows the tribal citizens any better than we do? And, you can't leave it to a statistician in Washington, D.C. That sits there and takes all 574 tribes and comes up with these very general numbers that are not applicable to tribes in northeast Oklahoma. Instead of that money going to a government entity, that money comes directly to us now, and we provide that care to our own people. And so really, the greatest thing that's happened in the history of tribes in my generation, during my lifetime, was the Indian Self-Determination and Education Act, because it allows us to finally govern ourselves instead of the government trying to solve problems, because a lot of times the government's not very good at solving problems. I don't know if you've caught on to that yet, but they were terrible at solving tribal problems. And so, to put that the ability and giving that ability to the tribes to solve our own problems has went a long way. And so one of the divisions, as I said, the division we have is the government division of the tribe, and that oversees all the governmental programs that we have today, which is our own police department, our own court system, and of course with the McGirt ruling and the Supreme Court ruling in 2020, that is still being sorted out. But basically what it is, it gives us complete jurisdiction over Native people on our reservations. The second division that we have under the tribe today is our cultural division, and this is the division that we just started about 3 years ago. We separated our tribal culture, and we created our own division there with what we call our cultural preservation officer, who oversees all of our culture for the tribe. And we felt that it was very important for us to separate that and for them to operate independently out of the government. It's kind of like the separation of state and state and church, you may say. And so that our cultural division, and that's something that we really begin to put a lot of money into. And a lot of the tribes in Oklahoma, you can see today, the Cherokees and the Choctaws and Chickasaws have some of the nicest cultural centers that you'll ever go into, and museums, and they're doing a great job of having language immersion again, because our culture is our identity, and identity is everything to being a Native person. And that was something that I did not have the opportunity to have growing up, because after the Indian Removal Act in 1830, every federal policy that was aimed toward tribes after 1830 had one thing in common, and that was to destroy and take away identity from Indian people. A lot is said about physical genocide, and the physical genocide that took place with the Native American population in the United States was the worst genocide to ever take place in the history of the world. We went from from 15 to 20 million people when Columbus arrived, that after the Indian Removal Act, less than 350,000 people. The Wyandottes alone, when we first had contact up in Canada with the French Jesuit priests in 1535, it was estimated that there was up to 25 to 50,000 Huron. They called us the Huron people at that time. That many people. By the time we came to Oklahoma in 1867, there were less than 300. And so it's very well documented, the genocide that took place among the indigenous population. But what's not talked about a lot is the cultural genocide. And the cultural genocide has the biggest impact upon my generation, because the cultural genocide was that the generation before me, they went through all those policies, that they were put in boarding schools and placed in there, and they were told they couldn't speak their language. They couldn't learn their history. And so a lot of these things were not carried on to my generation. And so today, we're having to relearn all of that. We're having to go back and go into libraries across the United States and find those first source documents. We're having to go back and relearn our language again. But it's something that's very important to us, because it is our identity. The thing that I say about history, history is not for us to like or dislike. History is there for us to learn from. And if it offends us, even better, because it offends us, we're least likely to repeat it again. But it's not for us to erase or destroy. I heard one of the speeches of the high school student was cancel culture. There's a lot of that going on, tearing down statues and all these things. History's not there for us to erase or destroy. It's there for us to learn from. And I think in the tribal community today, we're learning from what happened in the past. We're not to be angry or bitter about that, because it's already taken place. I had a dear old Cherokee lady tell me one time, she said, Chief, it's okay to look back. It's not okay to stare. And I thought about that, and there's a lot of truth to that, because if you look back and you stare, you become angry and bitter what took place. But we're to look back long enough to learn from it and make sure that it's not repeated again. And so for our tribe, we separated our culture because we believe that it's very important for us. When I speak to high schools and colleges and elementary students, I always start off with one of my favorite African parables, and I'll have it up on the screen usually. And that parable says, until the lion learns how to write, the story will always be told by the hunter. A lot of truth to that. And I always let them know there's two sides to every story. And history is always written by the victor. But now we have the ability and the means that we can tell our side of the story and tell what happened. And there's a lot there to learn. The third division we have within the Wyandotte Nation today is our Economic Development Division. And people always say, well, man, tribes have came a long way in the last 20 years. What has happened? I said, we have money. And that makes a difference. It makes all the difference in the world. You know, and gaming is a very, gaming can be very divisive when you talk about tribal gaming. But tribal gaming just gave us the means because the federal government, the programs that we had and the federal funding, we were always undercompensated. In the Indian Health Service, their goal was to get to 60% of the level of need funding. That was their goal. And so what their goal was, for every dollar that we needed to provide health care to our citizens, their goal was to try to get us up to 60 cents. And it hadn't happened. There was more money spent on health care for federal prisoners. There's more money spent on state prisoners than there was for tribal citizens. And so, our Title VI, our Elder Nutrition Center, where we feed meals every day to all the elders that live in our area, we're funded at about 41%, and the tribe has to make up the 59%. And so what gaming did, it gave us the beginning to begin to make up those differences and to provide those services. And it gave us the opportunity to diversify into other things, which we have done today. But the challenge for us in the Ottawa County, where we're at, in the Wyandottes, we have 9 tribes in a very small county. And so one of the advantages to economic development is to do business on what we call land and trust, or land within your reservation, because of the tax implications. But when you got 9 tribes in a county with 36,000 people, you can only have so many gas stations and so many casinos. I tell everybody, I think we have more slot machines per person, per capita, than any place in the United States. The Wyandotte Nation, what we begin to do, we begin to look for opportunities outside of our jurisdiction. And the first thing that we did back in the late 90s was get into what we call the SBA 8A program. The Small Business Administration has a program called the 8A program. It's for small minority-owned disadvantaged businesses. And the federal government sets aside 10% of all their contracting opportunities, they're called set-asides, for 8A companies to go after and to be competitive and to bid on. And so we got into the 8A world in the late 90s, and we continue to operate in that sector. We have contracts with the federal government. The majority of our contracts are with the Department of Energy. We also have contracts with the USDA, and we still have one Department of Defense contract in Dover, Maryland, the Dover Air Force Base. But we're in 15 different states with those small businesses doing federal contracts today. Of course, we have 2 turtle stops in Grove, and I want to say we appreciate the support that you give our businesses here in Grove. We had opportunity to come over, and our original turtle stop was in Wyandotte. And so we begin to look at extending and begin broadening and expanding that brand that we have on the turtle stop. And so we have 2 here in Grove. We have 1 in Fairland, and we opened up 1 in Seneca, Missouri. And so we found ways to go outside. And so these stores here, we pay state and city taxes. We compete just like anybody else would in a business. And why is economic development so important? Because it goes right back into our health care. It goes right back into our education. It goes right back into all of these social service programs. It allows us to commit $10 million to the Wyandotte Public School System. It allows us each year to hand the superintendent of the school a $250,000 check and tell him to use that however they need that. These are the things. This is why, and I say, it's kind of, it creates a good synergy when you have a strong government, when you have a strong culture, a strong identity, and then you have that strong economic development, because that's the fuel that powers everything else. And so economically, we have Riverbend Casino and Hotel and Resort in Wyandotte. We have 7th Street Casino in Kansas City, Kansas. And then we have Crosswinds Casino. It's just north on the north side of Wichita, Kansas, in a suburb called Park City, Kansas. And so we had a very special, a very unique bill in Congress that was passed in 1984 that allowed us to do off-reservation gaming. And so that's been very important to what we do economically today. I don't want to be cheap talks a lot, so I'm going to open it up for questions at this time. I want to be respectful of your time. Yeah.
Turtle Stop. Why the name Turtle Stop?
The Wyandotte, of course, our tribal symbol is a turtle, and our creation story, and it's a lot of tribes' creation story, especially Iroquois-based tribes, was that the world was formed on the back of a turtle, and that we live, on the back of a turtle. And there's this creation story that's part of our culture that goes back and talks about that. So the turtle has always been very sacred among a lot of tribes, but especially Iroquois and language-based. Yes.
Is there a role for First Nations to get involved with book banning and racial history? Does it take European whites are uncomfortable?
Say that again.
Is there a role for your nation or other Native American nations in the whole issue of book banning and racial history?
As far as I'm concerned, I think so, yes. As far as you're talking about the book banning of certain types of talking about culture or canceling culture, yes, I believe so. I let everybody know right up front, in Indian country, you have activists and you have diplomats. I like to see myself as a diplomat and not an activist. But I think going forward, yes, I think that Native American tribes will begin to take a role in that. I think, we look back and, the thing that I always say that signifies most Native people is that we were able to adapt and persevere. And that's a part of our history. And, we can't go back and change of anything that what happened. I mean, it happened. I always say, going to what Paul said in the book of Romans, all things work together for the good to those who love God and those who are called according to his purpose. He didn't say that everything that happens is going to be good. Everything's working for our good. And I believe that everything, a lot of bad things happen to tribes, but I believe looking back, it was working for our good today because now we're stronger than we've ever been. We're strong, not only surviving, but we're thriving today, in the day that we live in.
Does the Wyandotte Nation plan on participating with the state of Oklahoma regarding the apartheid compact, similar to what the Cherokees and a couple others are doing?
No. No. We've never offered. The only tribes that's ever had tag compacts in the state are the Chickasaws, the Choctaws, and the Cherokees. It goes back to an Oklahoma Supreme Court decision from years back, I believe it was in '98, and that allowed tribes to begin to start selling tags to our tribal citizens anywhere in the state of Oklahoma. And the reason being there was Indian Employment, I won't get into the long version of it, but there was an Indian Employment Act that was passed by the state Congress that allowed employers to hire Native American people and to get a tax incentive for hiring Native people. And so during the debate, when they was trying to pass that Indian Employment Act, they were trying to determine where Indian country was in Oklahoma because they said, okay, it's not fair that somebody in Grove can hire a Cherokee and get a tax incentive for that. But if you're out in the if you're out in Guyman, Oklahoma, or you're somewhere in Weatherford, there's no tribal jurisdiction there, and for that person to hire a Native person and not get that same incentive. And so at that time, Congress said, they said, okay, well, we'll determine the whole state Indian country. And when they did that, that set the precedent for us to be able to sell tags to any of our tribal citizens wherever they are in the state. And so, for us at one time, that tag program, when 20 years ago, that tag program, it brought in vital income for our tribe that we needed because we didn't have a lot of income sources at that time. And so, I always say, would Oklahoma rather have the $10,000 or $20,000 that we would send them in tax each year, or would they rather have us to write a $250,000 check to our local school and do the things that we do in our community? And so that's kind of a long answer.
Okay, so I think you said it was 1867 that you guys came here from Canada?
Yeah.
For 300. How many do you have today? How many?
Okay, we had first contact in Canada, but then we came into Michigan, we helped settle Detroit, and then from Michigan we went into Ohio. From Ohio we was removed. We were the last tribe to leave Ohio in 1843. We were located in Kansas, what is Kansas City, Kansas today, Wyandotte County. And then in 1867 we signed our final treaty. We came here to Oklahoma with less than 300. Today we have 7,251 tribal citizens.
How big an area?
Our reservation is a little over 20,000 acres.
I'm sorry, how many states is that 7,500 people?
Oh, we're in 49 different states. One of our goals is we're building, a lot of our projects we're doing now is trying to get people to move back, and so we've seen a lot of people actually moving back to Oklahoma. Yes.
Chief, you're being a little modest. Tell a little bit more about the investment in the health community and the facility and what we have going on out there.
Okay. And of course, Dr. Bechtel and also Dr. Cox. Many of you may know Dr. Doug Cox. His retirement reception is tomorrow. Everybody's more than welcome to come, 4 o'clock at Riverbend. But yeah, the tribe, we built Bearskin Healthcare and Wellness Center in 1998. In fact, that was my first job when I came to the tribe, was the wellness center manager there. We opened in 98. We've expanded since then. We have a large clinic we provide, of course, basically general health care there. We also have our own lab. We do moderate complexity on our lab. We also have x-ray there, and we have a pharmacy, pharmaceutical services. We provide health care to the Wyandottes and Eastern Shawnees. And so we did not accept what they call non-indigenous funds. And so we provide health care to Wyandotte, Eastern Shawnee tribe. But then we're also one of the only tribes in the state that we see non-tribal citizens. And so we see the general public as well, because we're in a community, we're in a rural community. Wyandotte, most of you drive through there, the city limits on signs on both sides of the sign. I got bad jokes, bad dad jokes. And so we see it, and so right now I think the majority of our patients may be non-tribal. But in a rural community, and that's one thing that, we realize that we have a shared community, that we have tribal citizens and non-tribal citizens. Everything that we do for our tribal citizens, we want it to benefit the community that we live in as well. And so we have, I believe, I'll say we have the best wellness center in the area, fitness center and that thing. And so, people in that community, where would they go to get those type of services? And so we charge a very low nominal fee to be a member. It's much like a YMCA, that type of fee for them to come and use the facility, but it's open to the community. We're getting ready. We just received another Indian Community Development Block Grant, which is a $2 million grant. We're going to build another gymnasium onto our existing gymnasiums, and so we'll actually have two full-size gymnasiums there in Wyandotte, Oklahoma.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chief.
Thank you.
And I'm sure we may be able to talk him into sticking around for an extra couple minutes if we need to. So, all right, at this time, not there yet. There's more coming. At this time, we need to reconvene the meeting that we recessed earlier. So I need a motion and second to reconvene into our meeting. So I'll entertain a motion now. Okay. We we have a second? So now we are back in our annual meeting, and I'm going to read the results. For Terry Wepler, there was 54 votes. For Clayton Baker, 57 votes. For Karen Stevens, 57 votes. Kathy Donaldson, 57 votes. For Club Board, Mike Kuhn, 57 votes. Lindsey Crane, 57 votes. For the Foundation Board, Matt Carnes, 56 votes. Cherie Cox, 57 votes. And Cindy Hefner, 56 votes. Total ballots counted and received was 57, and we have the 4 signatures of the collectors and counters. So those are the results, and we just now need to adjourn our meeting, so I need a motion and second. Joe first. We have a second. Russell with a second. We are now adjourned out of that annual meeting. So now back into our regular meeting. Congratulations. Next week, obviously no meeting the following week, so Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We are going to pick up everything, tables and chairs, right, Rich? Got it now. So if everybody wants to stand for the 4-way test for the last time of the year. Yes, Zach? Let everybody know we raised $738. Woo! All right, if everybody wants to recite and all the things that we think, say, or do, is the truth.